Breaking news. In a major escalation in tensions between the U.S. and Iran, the top Iranian general has been killed in an airstrike while leaving the Baghdad airport. The Pentagon confirmed the U.S. military carried out the attack. Qasem Soleimani was one of the most powerful figures in the Middle East and had been the top military man in Iran for more than 20 years. This attack comes after Iranian-backed groups breached the U.S. embassy in Baghdad just 2 days ago. We now turn to ABC's Kara Phillips, who's with President Trump in West Palm Beach, Florida. Kara.
When reports of the airstrike at the Baghdad airport broke tonight, there was one question on everyone's mind. Was the United States responsible? Well, the president was cryptic. He responded with only a picture, tweeting out the image of the American flag. My White House sources were able to confirm that not only did the strike happen, but it was ordered by President Trump. The Pentagon announcing that the strike did indeed kill the powerful commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, Qasem Soleimani, as well as the head of an Iranian-backed Iraqi militia. And it was ordered by President Trump. Now, here in the U.S., Republicans are calling this a success, saying Trump made a brave and correct call. But the president is also facing questions from his critics on Capitol Hill, asking if the United States carried out the assassination without authorization from Congress, potentially bringing this country to the brink of an all-out war.
Kira, thanks. Joining us now is ABC News Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz. Now, Martha, you were on the ground in Iraq with Soleimani not too long ago. What was his presence like there?
Well, when ISIS was taking over towns in Iraq, Soleimani would often be seen in Iraq, traveling back and forth between Iran and Iraq to help lead the fight, these Iranian-backed militias against ISIS. He was a very strong but very mysterious presence in Iraq. He was not high profile by any means, but people certainly knew he was there and certainly knew what he was doing in trying to defeat ISIS. But I will also say that his presence was felt throughout the war there because he was responsible for the deaths of many Americans, and I heard soldiers and generals and everyone talk about that and what the Iranians had done and the Iranian weapons that were present in Iraq and targeting American troops.
So clearly this is a victory tonight then for the Trump administration, but I would imagine that Iran will have a response, yes?
I think it's almost certain Iran will have some sort of response, even given what we've heard from them this evening in tweets, and that the United States in some way will pay for this. I think the important thing here to look at in any kind of Iranian response is whether they take credit for it. Remember with the attacks earlier this year on the Saudi oil fields and the drone attacks, they talked about the drone, but they did not talk about the Saudi oil fields. They did not take responsibility for those attacks. In fact, the foreign minister of Iran told me in person when I was in Tehran that some of those must have been photoshopped, that they weren't responsible for those things. So I think if Iran has some sort of response to the killing of Soleimani and they take credit for it, they are looking for a larger conflict. If they don't, I think they want to tamp this down.
Martha Raddatz, thank you so much. Joining us now is ABC News military contributor Colonel Steve Ganyard. He's a former Marine and high-ranking State Department official. Steve, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. First, what's the latest? What's the information you have at this hour?
We know everything that is out in the public, and that is that the Soleimani is dead, along with the head of this militia group that Iran controlled. And so that is the headline. That's not going to change overnight. What may change overnight is how the Iranians react. Obviously, this is something that they'll have to do something about. Mr. Soleimani is not just a general. He is something almost a demigod within the eyes of the Iranian people. He has been a hero of the Iranian people for a long time. He is their face overseas in their international adventures. And so this is not just some general. This is somebody who is not only one of the most powerful men in Iran, but one of the most powerful men in all of the Middle East.
So it seems that you would suggest that Iran will almost certainly have to respond.
They're going to have to do something. I think that what they do and how much they do is up to them. The administration did two things that were very interesting today. One is that they said, we will hold Iran responsible for anything that happens. That means no surrogates, no Hezbollah, no tankers in the Gulf just mysteriously blowing up, no Global Hawks being shot down. Anything that happens, Iran will be held responsible by the U.S. So they no longer have the ability to hide behind their proxies, to hide behind their surrogates. So what they do will be up to them, but they know that if they get held responsible, that the U.S. very quickly could defeat their conventional military and leave them helpless. That's the real risk here, is that it turns into something that becomes a very dangerous conventional fight within the Persian Gulf.
Based on what you just said, how likely is it at this point that more U.S. troops will be sent to the region?
I think the posture that we have there is quite strong. It's certainly enough to deal with anything that the Iranian military could throw at the U.S. It just depends on what kind of response comes from it. If the Iranians decide to do something quiet, to hit back just to show that they did, then it'll be probably something that the troops there will be able to handle. The real danger here is, does it get out of hand? Do the Iranians respond, try to deflect the anger that is inherent in the Iranian people towards the Iranian regime? As you know, that there have been riots over the past few months. Thousands of Iranians have been killed by Iranian security forces in these riots. And so the Iranian regime wants to deflect that anger onto the U.S. So that is sort of going to be part of the calculus on how hard they hit back at the U.S.
Colonel Steve Gagnier, thank you so much. The attack tonight, killing the top general in Iran, is just the latest in a troubled relationship between the U.S. and Iran, one that's been ongoing for 40 years since the regime took American hostages. But last summer, tensions began to increase once again. The U.S. calling the strike a success. For the Iranians, almost surely a call for retaliation. Iranian television announcing his death, saying Soleimani had been martyred after years of struggle for Islam. The Department of Defense confirming the attack, saying it was done, quote, at the direction of the president, adding this strike was aimed at deterring future Iranian attack plans. The attack came after continuing tension between the U.S. and Iran. In 2018, President Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal brokered by President Obama.
This was a horrible, one-sided deal.
Just days ago on New Year's Eve,
Do I want to? No. I want to have peace. I like peace. And Iran should want peace more than anybody. So I don't see that happening.
in April, the U.S. State Department made the unprecedented step of labeling the Iranian National Guard a terrorist organization.
This historic step will deprive the world's leading state sponsor of terror the financial means to spread misery and death around the world.
By early May, the U.S. aircraft carrier had been deployed to the region. Then, a shocking escalation, a series of attacks on international oil tankers in the region's busy shipping channels.
Smoke billowed hundreds of feet high from one of the crippled oil tankers.
The tit-for-tat all leading up to a June 2019 attack on a U.S. drone. The Pentagon claims it was flying in international airspace, but Iran maintains the drone was in their territory. The Pentagon readies an airstrike, only to see a stunning reverse in course around 7 p.m. The U.S. military ready to launch warplanes and warships at Iranian targets, until one final meeting between the president and members of his national security team, where Trump made a dramatic reversal against the advice sources say of former National Security Advisor John Bolton and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. But he later told NBC News he changed his mind because the planned strikes were not proportionate to Iran's downing of an unmanned U.S. drone.
I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, and here we are sitting with 150 dead people. That would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead.
The president denying reports that planes were in the air and ships were in positions before he called off that strike. But that was not the case tonight. Tonight, the strike went off. We'll have continuing coverage on Good Morning America.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Book of the Hour, Book of the Hour Show, Book of the Hour, Book of the Hour Show, Book of the Hour, Book of the Hour Show, Call Oim Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakal, Kadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders which are a great millstone. Peace and blessing to the sincere Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity, and diligently putting the videos up throughout the week to feed the sheep. This is McQuarrie from the Trump and the VA camp, and I'm going to get right into it. So as you just seen, the U.S. is took out a high official in Iran, which this all sparked from an attack by the U.S. on Iran, the missiles, then which led to the attacking on the U.S. embassy, which led to this. And now people are talking about World War III in the media and things like that, but I don't believe that this is going to actually spark World War III, simply because, matter of fact, I'm read this first, Matthew 24:6, and you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So all these things are going to come to pass, but that's not going to be the end. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdoms, and there shall be famines, and pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginnings of sorrow. See, all these things are the beginning of sorrows. So it's supposed to be wars and rumors of wars. And right now there's rumors of World War III, and you got little wars that are taking part right now in so-called Middle East. Okay, but as far as like this popping off Jacob Trouble, I don't think it's gonna happen. And here's why. Because it says, because the whole thing about the Real ID 2020. So the Real ID is mandatory October 1st. So it's going to be mandatory October 1st, 2020 this year for everybody to have a Real ID if they want to like basically travel and stuff. Now, I've made a couple of videos last year that was going into this video. Just going into the Real ID is going to tie into the mark of the beast. So I really don't see Jacob Trouble popping off before October the 1st when they drop this Real ID, which I believe is going to lead into the mark of the beast, which you can just look up the information on the Real ID, and you can obviously see it's going to be tying into the mark of the beast. Is going into a one system ID that you can basically use for anything. But yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with this all this bombing and stuff, but I really don't see it sparking or popping off Jacob Trouble. I'm not getting too excited about it. It's kind of funny to watch it, but I'm not getting too excited about it. But with that, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem Rakal, Kadash. I don't want to Ratazat them you call Shalom.